What is life like after returning home from a 2-year stay in Japan? What kind of reverse culture shock do people experience? Today, I talked to Amanda, who taught English in Japan for 2 years, about her life after leaving Japan. We discussed how she adjusted to life back in her home country and what she misses most about Japan. Hello everyone, welcome back to Little Malayan. Today I have a fellow Singaporean here who has lived in Japan for 2 years. So I'm going to interview her. So can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm a Singaporean, and yes, as introduced by Floria, I lived in Japan for 2 years, from 2019 to 2021, and I've been back in Singapore ever since.
So what do you do now?
Currently, I work in a university. I do student-related events. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So so you mentioned that you went to Japan from 2019 to 2021.
Yes.
So that was during the period after COVID, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how was it during that time for you in Japan?
When I first entered, it was in 2019, so it was still not yet COVID. We had 1 year of a normal year, and indeed in 2020, when the news started coming out that there was this outbreak, it definitely got a bit tough because the borders were closed. We couldn't travel out of the country to come back, and also family and friends couldn't come and visit. So I didn't see them for a good almost 2 full years. Yeah, so it was a tough period indeed, and we had to also get used to. Because the system was different. In Singapore, they had circuit breaker, they had and they had a trace together, whereas in Japan, they did things a bit differently during the COVID period. So we had to get used to an entirely new system as well.
So about like living there during the COVID, like did you find any inconveniences in your daily life or in your job, like teaching?
When I was teaching, similar to Singapore, there were a lot of conversions from physical classes to online classes as well. I have lessons teaching little kids. That was the toughest.
Yeah.
Because it was very hard to get their attention online. Sometimes you would see them on the screen and then they would disappear off the screen.
I see.
And then you try to get them back, but they run away again. Yeah.
So you did that for like 1 year or just half a year?
The online part was thankfully a short period, because after that there was an option of whether they would want to come back to classes. So it became a hybrid arrangement. So that also required a bit of getting used to. And also starting the full mask wearing and the safe distancing. Yeah.
So it was very hard wearing a mask and teaching for like a few hours, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what kind of a good or like uncomfortable experience did you have in Japan?
One of the good experiences that I had was experiencing the 4 seasons. One part of it would be the food, the produce in Japan, because we could experience the food and fruits at the best of the season. One example would be during summer, I had a peach kakigori in Okayama. So Okayama is famous for peaches, and indeed, at that season, the peaches were at its sweetest, its juiciest. It was so delicious. And another thing that we enjoyed is being able to do activities for the different seasons. So for spring, we would do hanami, which is bringing some small bites or bento and some drinks to have a little picnic under the cherry blossom trees. During autumn, we would go for hikes to enjoy the momiji, which is like the autumn foliage. And in winter, so it was actually my first time being able to do winter sports. So I actually picked up snowboarding when I was in Japan.
Did you go to Hokkaido?
We went to ski resorts in Hokkaido, in Nagano, and I think one more in Gunma.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So can you snowboard now?
Amateur.
Okay, but
I can do the leaping action down the slope.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're better than me. I can ski, I can snowboard. Yeah.
I can't ski.
Okay. Okay, so what about uncomfortable experiences you have?
So one experience I can recall was being lampas salita in the streets. It was somewhere in one of the major cities. I believe it was in Osaka. And you're just walking down the street and somebody would just come up to you and talk to you like, oh, Nene-san, kawaii desu ne, and probably compliment either your clothes or just your looks. So I thought I could get away with it by saying in English like, oh, I don't speak Japanese. But unfortunately, he played the trump card. He said, oh, you're not a Japanese. He spoke to me in English and I was thinking, oh no, in my head. I just made the conversation more interesting for him.
Oh my god.
So he did try to follow up with where you're from, what do you do, what's your name. And at that point of time, I thought, I was trying to get out of the conversation in a very polite way, but it took close to a few minutes before I could escape the conversation.
Right. And you try to do it politely.
I tried to do it as polite because I think a part of me didn't want to be rude, even if it was a random guy talking to me.
Yeah, I know how you feel. Yeah, you just have to like say
smile and say
politely, no thank you.
Correct. I keep trying to give hints like I'm not interested to talk. Yeah, it took a few minutes to escape.
Okay, so that was quite uncomfortable, huh?
That was, yes.
So since you came back in 2021, did you have a reverse culture shock here?
One of the first reverse culture shocks was actually the clothing, the daily, everyday dressing. In Singapore, it's quite common for you to see people wearing extremely short shorts or even spaghetti strap tank tops because the weather here is very hot. But in Japan, even though it's summer, and even if people were to just make a trip out to the nearest supermarket, people would still dress decently or at least cover up a bit more. So the most I've ever seen is like at least a shirt, a t-shirt, and Bermudas or at least shorts around the knees, even in summer. So that was one thing that I had to get used to, which was seeing, I guess, less clothing on people in Singapore.
Here we tend to dress like more
very casually.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. And slippers also. So slippers were almost something that I barely saw in Japan. If you were outside of your house area, everyone would wear covered shoes at least.
Okay.
Yes. Another reverse culture shock would be the public transit, or in Singapore the MRT compared to the subways and the JR trains in Japan. In Japan, the trains run on a schedule, which is probably an interval of 15 to 20 minutes. Whereas in Singapore, the train comes relatively fast, every 3 minutes, during peak hour, or 5 minutes. So in Japan, the doors close really fast. They close in under 10 seconds, where you need to walk in fast enough, and then soon after the doors would close. Whereas in Singapore, the doors actually were left open for a pretty long period of time. So when I started to take the train again, when I came back, I thought the trains were stalling.
Because the door are not closing.
They weren't closing for a good maybe 12 to 15 seconds. Yeah.
So that's something different.
That was something different. Which is, I feel that it's something that once you're too used to it, you would take for granted. So like the frequency of the trains every 3 to 5 minutes, it comes at a relatively good frequency. And one more experience driving in Japan. The good thing is that drivers are very considerate, they're very polite. They would most of the time give way to you, and even if you do give way to others as well, they would thank you in return by turning on the blinker for just about two times. In Singapore, I had to get used to a different driving culture per se, a different road etiquette. Most of the drivers in Singapore tend to feel very rushed when they're driving. It could be because of the busy lifestyle that we have. And also some could be in a rush. They might seem a bit inconsiderate sometimes. And maybe they try to, even if there's a bit of a gap, they would try to cut into the lane.
Yeah.
And it might be unsafe also, especially if they don't indicate or if they just came in at a speed which you might not have been aware. Yeah, so that was another reverse culture shock for me coming back.
The driving, huh?
The driving on the road, yes, the road etiquette. Yeah.
And the hongi, like
oh yes, the horns. So in Japan, you would, I never ever heard a single horn, or maybe just like very light, toots, toot toot, as a gentle reminder.
Yeah.
In Singapore, everyone is, not everyone, several road drivers can be quite liberal with the horn. Just go all out.
Or full
volume. Full volume, and really as a driver you can get a shock, or even as a passenger I would just get a shock.
Yeah.
And it could just be something simple as the car at the front of when the light turned green and the car in front didn't yet immediately moved off. It could be changing gears or could have been distracted, but within a split second,
they will be like asking you, like, what are you doing?
Move. Yeah, so that is something, even until now, actually, I'm not used to in Singapore.
Okay. Okay, so you returned here in 2021, and then since then you have been to Japan like 5 times?
Yes.
So what makes you go back to Japan again?
One of the things that always brings me back to Japan would be visiting back my friends that I've made during the 2 years there. That would be mostly in Kobe. So I would always, whenever I go back, I would specially plan a trip there, and I would contact my friends again and say, hey, I'm back for this period, let's catch up, let's have a drink, a meal, or grab coffee. So coffee is something else which also does bring me back to Japan as well. Every time I go back, I always keyword search Baizenjo, and that is like coffee roastery in Japan. I do enjoy visiting both the traditional cafes, the kisatens, as well as the new wave coffee shops, because I feel that a lot of cafes in Japan, they do it really well, be it the roast or be it the drinks. There's always this level of either service or the quality of the food which you can always expect. So that has always been very enjoyable for me as well.
Oh, okay. So it's something that you always do when you go back to Japan, going to visit different kind of cafes.
Go cafe hopping as well.
Okay.
And even if it's a little bit out of the way, if it's in the countryside, I actually wouldn't mind renting a car to drive out to the place, especially if when I read the reviews and there's positive reviews, be it the selection of the beans, or even if it's just the雰囲気, the atmosphere, the ambience of the place. A lot of cafes now, I guess, have actually been setting up in like a remodeled old shop. It could be an old house setting or somewhere in the countryside. It could look like a barn, but the inside is done up so beautifully. I would travel even 1 hour just to visit that place.
Okay, so this is how passionate she is about cafe.
Yes.
Okay. So the final question. How did the 2 years in Japan influence you?
I can start off by saying that in the 2 years I was living in Japan, as well as every single time when I come in to visit, I do speak to people, like the locals living there. So one group of people that I would speak to are cafe owners, and well, not just cafe owners, I'll do pottery classes as well. I'll speak to the pottery master. And one thing I realized is that they are very dedicated to their craft.
Yes.
They will do things in a way which almost perfects their craft, or that they do it really well. So that actually has caused me to think and reflect that I should also be having that same pride. I should also be having that same attention to my craft or my work as well. So like one example is I do coffee as a side interest thing, just a home brewer. But because of the influences that I have received from speaking with the locals in Japan, that also has caused me to want to do even just my passion projects or my side things very well as well. I would like to do things more on a intentional basis to make it good, because I do not want to do things like a 中途半端
中途半端ね
that kind of manner.
I
yeah.
see, I see. So you want to be like committed, right?
I want to be committed to anything, even if it's just a interest based. Yeah.
So even in your singing too?
Oh yeah, so background wise, I have been singing in a choir for several years now. So even if it's singing, I also, other than just singing for my choir practices, I do go for certain workshops or vocal lessons outside, so that when I come back to the choir, I'm able to give back to the choir through improving of myself, my own skills and capabilities.
Oh, so did you go for classes in Japan too?
In Japan, I wasn't able to find, maybe more of the I didn't know how to do the keyword search. I didn't know what was like vocal.
Okay.
Correct. Although I did enjoy a few musical performances during my time in Japan.
You went to watch the musical.
Correct. At the Kobe, I forgot the name of the place near Ogura Station.
I see. So in a way, living in Japan has influenced you like to be more consistent, to be more like like a shokunin kind of mindset.
Like craftsmanship.
Yes, okay.
To be dedicated to your craft.
Okay, so please continue with that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so that's the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.